Welcome to the PCR Tech News Podcast, your latest tech news with no apologies. I'm your host, Troy King, and today's March 19th, 2010, and we've got a special, uncut, extended edition of the show, so certainly a big treat for all you listeners out there. With me is a first-time special guest, Bob Wise with Wise Guys Computer Support. How you doing today, mate?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You're the first honored guest of the show. So how does it feel?
Well, it's a kind of a first-time experience for me, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. So,
absolutely. Have you had a good week? Anything? What are you working on this week?
Well, I'm working with a client on setting up a web filtering program using OpenDNS, which has been an open source alternative to for DNS resolution, as opposed to using the ones that your ISP provides. And they've come out with a web filtering product that competes with WebSense and Barracuda and is priced extremely attractively. So been working on that and, the usual mayhem.
Sure. I've been working myself a lot with Joomla, and I know we've talked a little bit about this before, a content management system, and oddly enough, I looked at Joomla initially as, I found it too difficult to get my head around, and then I went over to WordPress and found that easier to use, and then once I learned that, going back to Joomla, I find that Joomla actually was easier to learn, so quite surprising, and I'm kicking myself because about a year ago I had a web design project that would have been perfect for Joomla, and I crammed it into WordPress, and it was just a bloody nightmare. But now I think I'm on the right track, and I think I understand the difference between Joomla and WordPress, and because WordPress is better for blogs and some sites, and Joomla is best for sites with the occasional blog wedged in there somewhere. So.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because I took a look at Joomla a few years ago and had the same sort of like brain-numbing experience and just decided to shelve it for a later date. So we'll have to talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Maybe one day we'll do a Joomla show where it's just all about Joomla. Because for me, as someone who likes to get in there and create templates from scratch, there's just so much finicky code for WordPress, and it's not compact like Joomla. Joomla, you just do a couple of JDoc inserts, and you can insert these modules and switch them around and do all these cool things. So it's certainly advantageous.
I think I may even have a glimmer of what you're talking about there. But
oh, wow. Yeah. And now we're on a roll. Any top stories that are on your mind this week?
Well, I'd like to send a word out to everybody who's a Facebook user, and that's probably like half the world. There's been a Facebook password reset confirmation email that's been making the rounds. I've received about 3 or 4 of them this week. And my antivirus product, AVG, correctly identified it as spam and disabled the attachment, which is, in fact, a zip file that would infect your computer with some type of malicious software payload. So be on the lookout for that. Facebook's not changing passwords, and if they were, they certainly wouldn't send you a zip file attachment to open to discover the new one. That's just not the process. So.
Right. That's a very good word of caution. One thing that many companies do is that they explicitly state, we'll never ask you for your password or tell you a new password. So anytime anyone out there is getting emails that require passwords or they're sending you a new one, it's definitely something to be cautious of. I've been getting those types of files, zip files, from UPS.com, and last night I got my first Facebook one. And I'm hesitant to try to block UPS.com emails because what if they honestly need to get a hold of me? These hackers are pretty smart for.
Yeah, they're using clever exploits to basically to trick people into doing what's required to get this to get the payload installed. The fact of the matter is that if you're running a reasonably decent top of the line internet security suite, it's almost impossible for them to attack you using external means. That they really need to have the active participation of the computer user to complete the process, and it's always some sort of we've lost your user ID and password. I've seen some Yahoo stuff in the last year where you'll get an email that says, "Oh, our servers blew up, and we need your email." We need your email, user ID, and password to restore the system, and there'll be a link in the email, and they'll take them off to a very realistic-looking website that's fake. And once the user ID and password has been given, then people are finding that their accounts have been hijacked and that there's all sorts of spam or pleas for money or whatever coming off of their account and going to the contents of their address book. So it just pays to be suspicious. If you get an email that just looks a little bit off, listen to that little paranoia alert that you hear and go directly to the website without clicking a link and check it out. These password resets are easy to prove because if you can log into your account on whatever service it is using the user ID and password that worked before, obviously the email's fake. So.
Right, very good advice. Just go directly to the website and change your password and any information you need to there. I did fall victim to that once, where I clicked on a link in an email, and I immediately got suspicious after the fact. Went to the website, changed my credentials immediately, and then let the company know. So, thinking of attacks, the issue with China's attacking Google and stealing Google's intellectual property. Now Google is threatening to pull out of China and not censor their search results anymore. And this has hurt the Google ad resellers quite a bit. And they're saying they don't know what to do. They don't know if they should need to pack up base and head for home, or if there's a future for them there. And if this, of course, stems from new legislature in America where the American government is going to basically police American companies, even those that are operating in foreign countries. So if Google is censoring human rights search results in China, America can punish Google for that. What are your thoughts on that issue?
Well, I can tell you the decision of Google to pull out of China hurt those of us who have investments in Google stock. Stock dropped about $100 a share, which is not insignificant. It's been hovering around the mid $500, $550 range, and I can't imagine that any company can ignore a market as large as China permanently. It would just be, you're basically shutting yourself off from 25% of the of your potential revenue volume. So I see this as being something that they have to resolve. Google's probably needs China more than China needs Google, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Google's one of the few corporations that really has a serious ethical foundation. Based in their mission statement, which is do no evil. And so, anything can happen, but I just really think eventually they're going to have to make peace with China in some form or another, and to get back into that market.
True. And the other issue is, by censoring search results, by abiding by China's wishes, is Google in the end doing evil? Because if someone needs to find their local human rights activists and they hop on Google to find them, Google's kind of being part of the problem in that case. Yeah,
and I'm torn. I think the United States Constitution is the finest governmental the finest document ever written when it comes to managing human affairs in a governmental situation. But I also don't believe that our way of living necessarily exports well to all other locations. People in other countries have different they have a different history, they have different traditions, they have different expectations, different